We all love Liver King, right? Whether we love to hate him, love to just watch his weird content, or we truly love what he's doing, the guy is interesting. But he is right about one important thing. Liver, okay? It is king. It is king in a lot of ways. And what I want to do with this video is do a breakdown of why. Because Liver King is really good about touting liver as king, but he never really goes into detail from a mechanistic side of like what it's doing in your body. So it leaves a lot of sort of scientific-minded people thinking, well, this guy's just a hoot. He doesn't really know what he's talking about. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But the bottom line is that liver is a very powerful superfood. So let's just jump right in. As far as nutrient density is concerned, if you're looking at 100 grams of liver versus 100 grams of like beef muscle meat, you're going to have significantly more nutrient density per calorie with beef liver than you would with muscle meat. It doesn't mean that you replace your muscle meat with liver, but it does mean you're going to get way more in the way of nutritional value. And that's what we want to break down. I put a link down below for Thrive Market after today's video if you want to check them out. There's a 30% off discount link. So whatever it is you want to get, whether you want to get meat snacks, whether you want to get some liver snacks, whether you want whatever it is you want to get, Thrive Market has it. Doesn't matter if you're a vegan, paleo, whatever, right? It is an online membership-based grocery store that allows you to shop by diet type, which is very, very unique. And when we're talking about the benefits of liver anyway, we're not talking about it just for people that are living an ancestral lifestyle, okay? People that are really just trying to live a good, healthy, omnivorous lifestyle could benefit from liver, right? Anyhow, so that link is down below. That'll save you 30% off whatever it is you fill your grocery cart with, and then it gets delivered to your doorstep in just a couple of days. Plus there is a $50 free gift when you use that link down below. Okay, why more liver? Well, with that, vitamin A. When we are looking at 100 grams of beef liver, we are looking at over 1,100% of our daily value of vitamin A. Because what we have is inactive forms of vitamin A like retinol, retinal, and retinol esters that they must get converted into active forms. So they don't get excreted. That's the one downside, right? Is you could overdo the liver. But you're not gonna overdo it if you're having like 100 grams of liver a few times per week. Okay, now what is this doing within our body? Well, first of all, you can only get vitamin A from animal sources, period. Okay, and it is critical for eyesight. There was a study that took a look at this, and it took a look at subjects that consumed vitamin A supplementation, okay, or they consumed trace amounts of vitamin A and vitamin E. They consumed vitamin A plus vitamin E in standard dosages, or they consumed just vitamin E. And what they found is that the groups that had decent amounts of vitamin A had a 32% less chance of developing poor eyesight. Okay, they staved off bad eyesight, right? Now, the reason is these active forms of vitamin A actually help protect not just our cornea, so they don't just like kind of protect our eyes, but they also literally help our color vision and help our night vision. Maybe that's why Liver King hunts at night. Okay, now whatever it is you think about Liver King, there's one thing for sure. The guy has a ridiculous amount of energy. It's like, I don't know if it's just the content talking and he just like saves his energy for when he's filming, but the guy's got energy. And when you look at vitamin B12 content in liver, it's ridiculous. It's like 3,400% of your daily value in a 100 gram serving. And you're probably thinking, well, that's too much. I'm just going to excrete that out. You will excrete what you don't use, but if you are an active person, you are going to use that B12. Now, B12 is not literal energy. Okay, it helps out with energy metabolism, helps out with red blood cells, it helps out with oxygenation, and we'll dive into that in just a second. There's a study published in PLOS One that took a look at people deficient in B12, and they found that they were more fatigued and had more depressive symptoms. Okay, well, that was a pretty large-scale study, but what's happening potentially mechanistically here? Well, we'll get to that, but there was another study that demonstrated that when subjects supplemented B12 alongside with depression medication, people's depression symptoms improved in a larger group. So there were 50% more people that improved their depressive symptoms when they were taking their medication along with vitamin B12. Think about it. Have you ever met someone that's lethargic and fatigued that's in a super good mood? Like they're laying on the couch being like, I'm in a great mood. It just doesn't really happen, okay? And I suppose you could be, but energy gives us this feeling of good mood. Poor energy gives us the, I don't know, sort of perception of a bad mood. Now what happens is B12 is required for serotonin production. Without B12, that's going to be one of the first things to go. You're not going to feel good. But it's also enzymatically required for energy. It doesn't literally provide energy, but it is a very critical process that allows us to create energy. And then interestingly, there was a new study that demonstrated that B12 might actually prevent brain atrophy. It might actually stop the hippocampal region of our brain from shrinking and atrophying, which means it helps preserve our brain. So yes, you could go and eat a bunch of foods rich in B12, or you could get a ton of it synergistically with other nutrients in a simple serving of liver. I see what's happening here. It does make sense. Now, my favorite benefit of liver is one that isn't touted enough. Okay, and that is talking about specific enzyme pathways that come as a result of copper. Okay, over 1,600% of your daily value of copper in 100 grams of beef liver. Okay, it is not that easy to get copper in, and if we do, we're getting it in very unbalanced ways. Too much copper is going to deplete zinc. It's going to cancel things out, right? We have to keep things in check. Minerals are wacky. Now, when we get them in food synergy, in natural forms, it's things that are supposed to be eaten and it makes more sense. But why is copper so pivotal? Copper forms what are called Cooper enzymes. Okay, now Cooper enzymes are required for a lot of different things. In this particular case, one that's very important is cytochrome C oxidase. Now, cytochrome C oxidase's job is to take oxygen and ultimately break it down and reduce it down to water. Okay? This is required for aerobic respiration. This is required for overall metabolism. Without this happening, we cannot form energy and we become a toxic wasteland. Now, another one that's super interesting, lysyl oxidase. Okay, so what happens here is this is a compound that allows for collagen and elastin to form what are called crosslinks. If you imagine two pieces of rope being twisted together, they're going to be stronger, right? Because a crosslink has formed. So in essence, copper helps us create stronger connective tissue. Okay, and it does this because it is a supporting enzyme to allow this to happen, this coenzyme. So important. Without this, collagen can almost literally be twice as weak. Then we have the iron metabolism world. What's fascinating about iron is that everyone thinks they're anemic, okay? But when iron is in its ferrous state, that is really not doing you a lot of good. If you go and you take a bunch of supplements of iron and you elevate your ferrous levels of iron, that's going to give you a false reading that you are no longer anemic. So someone says, oh, you're anemic, take iron. All of a sudden you take iron, so your ferrous state of iron goes up. You're still anemic because you're not actually converting that ferrous state iron into the ferric state usable form that can actually form red blood cells. Okay. In the case of liver, because copper is along for the ride, the copper actually allows the iron to do what it's supposed to do and not be oxidized in a strange form, okay? Excess iron that oxidizes is just like leaving a dumbbell out in the rain. That iron is going to oxidize and rust and become oxidative damage, right? We do not want that. What's interesting is iron helps form red blood cells. Vitamin B12 is involved in red blood cells. You see, here we come back to food synergy. They work together. And a quick thoughtful nod to another mineral that I'm very passionate about, but it's hard to talk about it because we can't talk about immune system content a lot, but is zinc, okay? Now there's interesting papers that took a look at zinc, okay? There was one that was looked at 7 random control trials. It was a meta-analysis, and it found that people that were deficient in zinc ended up having colds that lasted longer. And people that supplemented about 75 grams of zinc ended up having colds that were 33% shorter. Okay, so it definitely makes a difference overall. It has to do with T helper cell formation, basically the helper cells that go around and tag pathogens for our immune system to neutralize them. Okay, now there's about a 75 to 85% of your daily recommended value of zinc in a 100 gram serving of beef liver, right? So with that, it's not perfect, but it's just about what you need, right? So if you're eating that and you're also eating maybe a wider, more diverse diet, then yeah, you're probably gonna get enough zinc. Another wild one that people are just so naive to is riboflavin, vitamin B2. Vitamin B2 is a coenzyme for very important things. Okay, we've got flavin mononucleotide, and we've got flavin adenine dinucleotide. Long words, but these are coenzymes that make the world go round. Without these coenzymes, we would be dead. Basically, they are cofactors for dehydrogenases, reductases, and oxidases. They help break things down. Again, they help with aerobic metabolism. So if we don't have aerobic metabolism, we cannot convert oxygen into energy. It sounds like basic life, and it is, But imagine if basic life was working at 200% because you actually had what you had to make it work right. Now, these coenzymes are also involved in the metabolism of drugs. Okay, so without these coenzymes, if you were to take a medication, you would become a toxic wasteland of it. You need B2 as a coenzyme to deal with these. Okay, that's why liver is ultimately good for the liver, right? It might help us actually deal with some of the things that we're taking into our bodies. And one of the last things, but most important things, is when we consume protein, we take in tryptophan. This tryptophan needs to also get converted into a form of vitamin B called B3 or niacin. This is required for numerous different energy pathways in the body, and also ultimately wraps around to being a coenzyme for the regulation of homocysteine within our body. You've probably heard your doctor talk about homocysteine because if homocysteine elevates even ever so slightly, it can play a significant role in how arterioles become stiffer or plaque forms. So believe it or not, liver might have protective properties when it comes down to our arteries, even though it seems like the most meat heavy, crazy thing to do. I don't care if you eat 100 grams of protein, I don't care if you eat 50 grams of protein or 200 grams of protein a day. It doesn't matter if you have 100 grams of liver. Okay, you could be someone that eats a bunch of nuts, seeds, and maybe a shrimp, but if you have some liver, we're not doing it because we're ravenous, crazy animals. It is a superfood, okay? And that food synergy of all the stuff that comes in one simple organ makes a lot of sense rather than trying to get it all from random sources that we wouldn't be able to get on the other side of the world, right? Our body wants that food synergy. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel and think what you want about Liver King, but liver is probably king.